Friends, welcome to the session on blockchain meets supply management. And we are trying to call this a dynamic duo. It's basically a pair of something which goes well together, I would call it. If you look at all the use cases, I mean, obviously the finance is the first one. The next one comes supply chain management. That's why I thought, let me call this a dynamic duo around. The blockchain technology, as you all know, I would call as a disruptive technology. I would say is the most promising technology of this era. So what we plan to cover up in these sessions are, first thing is to understand what is blockchain, which I know most of you by now know it, how it works, then what are the limitations of the existing system, use cases, challenges, and future. And then when we talk about digital maturity, because everybody's talking about now Industrial Revolution 4. So Industrial Revolution 4 is nothing about except the transformation part. Transformation means digital transformation. Where is the maturity level? That's what we'll discuss. And the role which ISM is playing in this field around, I'd like to share with you. Now, coming back to the very first thing, as I said to you, it's an emerging technology, promising technology, whichever word you want to say. But normally we link it with fourth industrial revolution. So before we get into the more detail, let me unpack the technologies. The word block is nothing but a data, is a data record. You may call it digital ledger, you may call it data, and is created every time someone initiates a transaction. Whenever you make a transaction, and being in procurement and supply chain, you make a requisitions, you make a purchase orders, you make payments, everything is creating a transaction. So that information which you're creating is, which could become again a digital one. Now, rather than, presently what we are doing is we are storing it somewhere, either in our own databases around, I make a requisition, it gets stored somewhere. If I have an ERP system, it gets stored somewhere. But now we are moving into a concept where these digital records are not stored in a central place, they're stored in a decentralized fashion. Look, a simple example around, if you and me are using any social medias, we're discussing together, we are sharing information, but someone is storing that information. So we are moving away from centralized system to decentralized. So when we move from centralized to decentralized, it improves the trust part. Now, the story of the blockchain, all of you know historical part. I won't waste much time on that. I mean, if you look historically, in 1991, also the concept was thought around. That time it was looked around, guys, can we have a time stamping around so that nobody can tamper it? But not much was done, let me put it this way. But it was in 2008, when the recession happened, we all know, in the US. So some of the people thought that we can't believe on centralized system, like Lehman Brothers, the big banks. They said, guy, we cannot have even a centralized system. So we should move from centralized to decentralized. If you look historically from the caveman time, we used to have a trust on each other. We used to have bartering again by trust to each other. Later on, when the population grew, everything grew, we came with a centralized system, whether it's a bank, whether it's a government, whether it's an institution. But the question came whether we have a trust on them. So this is where from the lesson of 2008, this concept was developed around. That guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, he developed the concept paper. Obviously, the first application of blockchain was Bitcoin. I would call that as the poster boy of the blockchain, although it is still not looked as a positive way. But when we go into the depth of the blockchain, it is much wider applications. Some of you may think, why we say this wider application? First thing is, as I said to you, it's a technology of trust. Why it is trust? Because whatever information I'm creating around, whatever transaction I'm creating around, is not going in a one central place, it is going in a decentralized fashion. If 10 of us are part of peer-to-peer, my information is going to you. So basically, I'm removing the middle person. So that's why this becomes a much more technology of trust around. Understanding the blockchain, I'll put it in a simple way. Instead of going through a centralized mechanism, you're going from peer to peer. So when you go in a peer-to-peer, what you're doing around is you're using the cryptography also in this one. So the cryptography also brings much better security. Everybody has a private key, public key, all the information is passed on to you. You have access, but then you need a private key to look into this. So you are getting a cryptographies, you're distributing the ledgers around. So those three parameters, I would say, attributes around comes up. Broadly, if I talk about the special things about blockchain, the key feature is decentralized, as told you. I think to me that is the main thing around, the moving from centralized to decentralized. So moment is decentralized, it becomes more trustworthy. Second is cost efficient. This certainly I will talk about cost efficiency because many of the documentations we do around, we have to replicate them, duplicate them every place around. I make it like, let's say many companies have gone for e-invoicing now. We deal with them. So they say, guys, can you send us the hard copies around? Then they will upload around. So those concepts which we are looking around, still there's a duplication, which I will call as an analog gap is there. Full digitization has not happened. So the digital transformation, which all of us are trying to do around today, somebody has done e-procurement, somebody done P2P, somebody done e-invoicing. So various applications we have done into digitalization. But between those applications, there's an analog gap. And that analog gap can be removed by blockchain because blockchain by design is digital. It's end-to-end. So when I will show you the smart contract, you'll appreciate certainly this connects end-to-end. There's no analog gap around. Time efficient around. Since information goes smoothly, it's much faster, transparent. Somebody can say, yes, we have IoT, I can track even now also. Yes, you can track, but you cannot trace it. You can track it, but you cannot trace it. But in this case, this transparency, if I link with IoT around, I can track and trace. Immutable. That means the documents, the information, whatever information you are creating around, nobody can tamper it. In centralized system, I can tamper it. I can hack it. Your informations, your asset records, anybody can change it. But in the case of decentralized system, it's not possible. Irreversible. So once any transaction has happened, any information has been passed on, you can't reverse it. So those are obviously the last one is secure because of the cryptography around. So everybody has a private key, public key, whenever information is going, public key is there. But private key goes to few people who are able to go into this. So there is a secrecy as well there. There's a transparency also, there's a secrecy also. So same thing I tried to explain it much more in detailed way. Now coming back to this, as I said to you, it's the next level of internet. All of us in the internet have email address, am I right? Then we have email password. I send an email to X or Y. Now that email is gone, but they can only open once they have their own passwords. So same thing in the case of blockchain, you need a private key around. So if I'm passing on some money to someone, or I'm sending a purchase order to someone, I'm sending a requisition to someone, the guy should have the private key around. So from my blockchain wallet ID, which I have my ID, like in email, you have email address. Here I've got a wallet ID. I use that is my key. So like my email address, I've got a wallet ID, but the moment I use the private key, it becomes, I can do with the digital signature also, public and this key combined together. So in short, if I talk about blockchain, the key thing comes up is a trust between the parties. System is much more democratic, that means everybody gets information. Integrated visibility in the network, track and trace, operational efficiency, the duplication of work. A lot of mirrors of documents which we have to do around is cut down. So the blockchain, the way it works, I know this is again the very basic one, which I know most of you must be knowing it. If any transaction I want to do around, any information I want to pass around, I've got the network, peer-to-peer network, it goes to them, I broadcast it. Then there are nodes which are authorized, and those nodes can validate it. And once it is validated, the block is available, and the block can be hooked up with the previous block. So block to block, I'm connecting them through hashing. So that hashing connects it together and gets timestamp also. So there's a timestamp, there's a hashing, so it becomes much more secure in that sense. Now let's get back to the very key elements of procurement. Whenever you make a purchase order, what do? These are contractual agreements. And those contractual agreement has got wide range of rules around which govern the execution of this order. The rules could be, you have to deliver this by this time. If you don't deliver, there's going to be penalty for this. So the rule is very clear. The rule also may say the quality has to conform with standard ISO standard, blah, blah, blah. So those are the rules which have been spelled it out. Quantity is spelled it out. Delivery is spelled it out. So those are the rules around. So the contract is nothing but the set of rules. And those rules, if I can convert them into a smart contract, I can codify them, I can make a program, it can execute of its own. So this is where the concept of smart contract comes in further. I think this is very interesting to see. Look around the chain of activities around. I got a supplier of suppliers. Obviously, from the one supplier, the certificate of origin comes in. And then also we got all the informations. Then it goes to the next level, again the information. Then it goes to the supplier, manufacturer. So this manufacturer has got now 3 blocks around. So initially there was a 1 block from one place. So that block has got 3 activities around, 3 informations around. Then goes to 4, 5, 6, 7 is also combined into that. So that becomes another block. So 2 blocks. Now I got 3 blocks around. And the moment it comes to the supplier, again, I'm looking at how to make a process the payment. The payment can be processed by moving on these activities. So you can say these are all self-executing in that sense. Then let's move to the next one. So here also I would say, if you see that one, next one, I got the shipment date, I got the order number, I got the HS, harmonized system code number, I got the temperatures, records. So those 4 informations, the 4th one, all put together becomes another block and combined with the previous one. Now it is moving with the transportation. Then I got the order number, I got a shipment number, I got equipment number, I got a temperature. So the moment it reaches to the next level, the receive date, let's say in the warehousing. Now in the warehousing, the guy is trying to match the supplies, orders, invoice, shipment, quality, update the inventory level, and then pay the process. Now these things can be automated. Presently we do in a very manual way. I'll check, has the supply been received or not? Is the quality okay or not? In this case, the program is already built. The contract is nothing but a smart contract, which is more of a program, which is more codified. And that system automatically pulls up this one and says, guys, okay, everything is matching, pay the supplier. So similarly, when it moves from this level to the last level, again, there's a receive date, order number, invoice number, customer ID, temperature. So now the system has got already so many blocks together. Now the block again has got a contract, and that tries to see the 3 parameters. Is the match the supplier? Yes. Invoice is matching, shipment is matching, update the inventory level. That means the extra quantity has come in, and pay the supplier. So this is the concept of smart supply. So smart contract is nothing but those activity which goes behind the purchase orders are codified, programmed, and they can execute of its own. So in short, if I have to explain a little further, the blockchain applications are going far beyond the execution of simple transactions. but the carrying out the payments, and payment is always linked with something. So that could be executed. This could be self-executed. So smart contract is a program that can perform a generation of downstream actions when appropriate conditions are met. Which today we are doing manually. I'll check all the documents, but here the computer system, the program takes care of it and makes the process much easier. So in short, it becomes much more efficient. Coming back to again the blockchain, initially when it started in 2009, the very first one, because in 2008 the concept paper was there, 2009 the Bitcoin came up around. So I would say first 4 or 5 years it was all about digital currency, digital currencies. So we could call it the generation 1. The generation 2 in 2014, when the smart contract came from Ethereum, I think that became the starting point. And that's the time people started looking around. Guys, we have a smart contract. That means the blockchain application could multiply. Today, the blockchain application, you talk about the health sector, supply chain, asset records, the real estate business, insurance. You talk a wide range of applications that's come up around. So that became the generation 2, I would call. Now the generation 3 is still in the process. So when we talk about generation 3, it means today I might be using X type of blockchain. You might be using, I've got 100 vendors. Each vendor may be using a different type of blockchain. So whether the blockchain to blockchain, they can speak to each other. The compatibility has to be there around. So that's what we're talking generation 3. It's in the process, I would call, but still I would call a lot of wide range of application has come up around. Health sector is a very popular one. Government is getting into the governance part, insurance part, IoT, manufacturing, telecommunication, retail. So you are having wide range of things around. Now, use cases, if you look again in procurement and supply chain. This is why in the beginning I said dynamic duo, because supply chain goes very close with blockchain. First thing is the payment. I know the digital payment is still a question mark, but some people are exploring the possibility of using. Because if I go with the Bitcoin is always volatile, is going up and down, sometimes become $10,000 once, sometimes become $3,000. So we are not getting into that problems around. So people are working on developing a tokens. So a big company has got, they develop their token, and the token can be linked with the fiat currency. The fiat currency could be rupees, fiat currency could be dollars. So you have a fixed rate around. So this could become a mode of payment where we could avoid again the middle person. Second is the traceability part. Certainly this is very, very crucial. So when we talk about the traceability part, you scan the barcodes, you can see the origins from where it started, and you can also look at the supply chain history as well. I remember the case when I used to be in the US, there was a problem in Walmart. So there was some issue with the food item like spinach and this. So when the problem happened, they basically removed the whole lot from the market. But now we can track and trace. For which lot is having a problem around, I can track and trace around. So that traceability is there around. Spend data. Earlier, my spend data was coming only from ERP within my own organizations. Now, since the blockchain is connecting the supplier, the blockchain is also connecting the vendor, so customer, I have much more storage spend data available. What my supplier is buying, what price they are buying around. And again, supplier might be buying from a supplier tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I can track and trace the whole spend. So that means you have a much bigger insights. Next one is the collaboration part. The parties are unknown to each other, but it creates a trust. See, in the centralized systems, you and me all, it is trust in the system, but not the people. Here, I think is also, but again, the system which we have seen the problem of 2008, 9, so people start losing the trust in the institution also. So here again comes peer-to-peer, which possibly builds better trust around. is P2P systems, is peer-to-peer, it's not procure to pay, it's peer-to-peer, decentralized system. The next one is smart container management. Particularly if your goods are coming from X country or Y countries over the seas around, you have containers. Those smart containers could have sensors and the information could be collected easily. Smart contracts, as I've explained to you, is automated action that can trigger through predefined events. Events could be the receipt of goods. Events could be the qualities matching. So there you could put down the various qualifications for the events. And then once those are matched, it can process the thing around. Safe transactions. Let's look at this smart container. So you have a supplier. You have a container and IoT sensors that update the blockchain with transport of conditions. The raw material which is moving, particularly if you think around the medical supplies, the food items, which are supposed to move from one country to another country at a particular temperature and humidity. If you don't have this blockchain, I'm only using IoT, which I know is becoming a big business today. So those data which I'm collecting, but data is centralized. And being a centralized data, then you start losing the trust on the data. Somebody can play with the data. But the moment I get into the blockchain, I have my containers. Container has the sensors. It is transmitting the information about the humidity, temperature throughout the journey, and that information is being captured. So you cannot play with that at all. While if it is blockchain is not there, I'm only using IoT, one can tamper the data. Here I can't tamper it. So it's immutable that way. So from supplier it's going to manufacturer. Then again, from manufacturer to warehouse, the next journey which starts around, again, information is immutable, trustworthy, that's the beauty of it around. So the word is smart. If you see the word smart is coming everywhere, whether you talk of mobile phones, smart processes, smart means digital, I will put it this way. So Industrial Revolution 4, when we talk about Industry 4.0, then we're talking of smart industry, smart manufacturing. If industry has to become smarter, all the activity which leads to industry, whether service industry, whether manufacturing industry, those activity, whether it could be your supply chain, storages, purchasing, everything has to be smart. So container also becomes smart. So the word smart is basically what I'm trying to convey is all about digitization. Many companies are moving into digitizations, but those digitization data can be hacked, played around. But one moment we go into the next level, the blockchain, it cannot be hacked easily, I would say. So in short, it becomes much more smarter. Let's start to compare the two things around, the blockchain and the supply chain. Traditional supply chain, let's see what we have. We lack the traceability. I mean, I can put IoT and track, but I cannot trace it. Risk involved with multiple stakeholders. If my goods are coming from multiple stakeholders, some parts are coming from one, another one is coming from another one, I have much more risk around. Two items may reach, third may not reach. The lack of responsiveness. Largely manual processing. And you all know procurement is all labor intensive. I mean, now it has cut down with the help of computers, with the ERPs and digitalization, I would call. But still, if you look around in your office, for everything, the file is much bigger. Regulatory compliance, you need audit compliance, reconciliation burden. So all these things takes a lot of paperwork and process time. Now let's move to the blockchain. The first thing starts the audit trail. The certificate of origin information is available from end to end. Even the custom level is also available. I don't have to give another copy for that. So audit trail is available from where the raw material came, where the first processing was done, where the second was done, where it was moved, what, and how it was moved around. So the complete audit trail of funds is also there. What money my supplier paid for it. complete information is available. Immutable, near real time. So real time information is available. I don't have to go to supplier guys. From where did you buy the raw material around? I can check myself. Digitalize means quicker. That's very clear. Tamper-proof data, single shared source of truth around. So it's basically a source of truth. Nobody can tamper it, so it's a single sources. So the savings are much bigger in this process around. Traceability-wise, enhancing 81%. Transparency-wise, 79%. Cost-saving-wise, 89% because less of duplication of work. And these are the things which are driving the blockchain further. Let's take up this one. I think this is very good one. I would call procure to pay. In procure to pay, in a normal activities around, in most of the organizations are using P2P, I could see now, 14 to 15 steps are there. Now these steps I've tried to put them into 3 headings around, where it's a medium impact, there's a bigger impact when we go for a blockchain. Today we have vendors updating. We go to the vendors, ask for the KYC every time, go and get the information every year. But now once, if I'm a vendor, I'm updating my data, and that data is available, accessible to all on the blockchain with whom I do business, I don't have to pass on the information. I can update at one place, that's all. Otherwise, if I'm dealing with 100, I've got 100 customers, to 100 people I'm sending around. So that information gets updated. If I'm having a catalog, and that catalog is being used by not only by one company, but maybe 100 companies around, I only update my information. That information is available to you through blockchain. So because blockchain is nothing but a data bank. It's nothing but a digital ledger. And that digital ledger, since you have a common platform, in today's ERP system, you have your own centralized. If I'm a supplier, I have my own ERP system, and there's another supplier who's got his own ERP system, so each one is a different database. But the moment we get into the blockchain, all are there. If you're connected through peer-to-peer, my information goes to you. Then we have the next ones. If you look back, allow vendor to submit invoices. The moment my invoice is there, I made it, it's available. Then if you are a supplier, if you are my customer, you will see, okay, purchase order is there, goods are there, and if I'm having a smart contract can automatically pull, there's an invoice available, and also there is a PO available, the goods receipt note available, and it can process the payment. Create and approve the requisition of spot buying. If the catalog is well maintained, creating the requisitions, or if you want to do spot buying, issue the purchase order. The next one is fulfill the POs and track orders. Certificate and receipts. Again, here is a less impact around. Scanning, no longer required. Presently, I know when we talk of digitization, take a hard copy, scan it, and we say, oh, we are digitized. But it's not becoming efficient process. Process invoices. If I've got a smart contract, it can process the invoices as well. Investigate and resolve the invoice exceptions if there are anything around. But the major impact you can see at the bottom ones. Process the payments. Validate the accuracy of the information. Issue the payment and remittance. And lastly is diminish the need to handle, again, vendor and use inquiries through the support centers. They don't have to go through that. So if you look around the whole chain of P2P only I'm talking, I'm not even gone to the S2P. If I look from source to contract, again, there are big savings around. Here itself, you can see it's a major saving in purchasing function as well. Now, the value addition is you could have front-end system. All the vendors could be connected to the front-end system. So if vendors could be authorized, guys, you update your records and the orders could go depending on the situation. Improved validation, as you can see in the previous slides. Accelerated purchase order management. Invoice processing has become smarter. Accelerated settlements. Reduced money laundering cases. Audit trail is the next one, which I would call as a major issue. Greater security of transactions. Speed of execution. I don't have to wait. The guy has not sent me the invoice. The guy has not sent me this. If everybody is doing their job and those documents are available and I've got a smart contract, it can pull those informations. This guy is not ready to process the payment. Now, looking back to this again, the example of tracking and tracing, the traceability part, Walmart has already implemented this. I mean, if I'm buying a juice, I'm getting a juice, from which form it comes, most of the packing, most of the transportations, borders crossing, processing, distribution, store, each and every information is available. So you can track and trace even up to the tree level from where it is coming. So many of the companies have started using this concept, particularly those who deal with food items, I would say, around. People want to be sure from where it is coming. So if you look at the coffee houses, some of the ones, they're becoming very popular. You can even check from where the coffee beans are coming around. And what price is being paid to the farmer even around. Are they being slaved around or not? So you can say a lot of tracking and tracing can be done around. Coming back to the benefits part. The benefits, if I look around, the very top is transparency. Second is tracking and tracing. The ledger is permanent. So once it is created, it's created. It's not that you can't change it, but then your creation is not that easy around. Cost reduction. Now coming back to the unknown part is the technology part. We all have got ERP systems around. How are we going to use blockchain on top of the ERP? So those complexity, and there are a lot of work has been done already in this field. Regulatory implications. Many governments are moving in this direction to develop their own regulatory requirements around. If I'm using a smart contract, if something goes wrong, the payment has gone wrongly, how do I have a legal recourse or not? For that, many governments are coming with a regulatory implication. The US government has also taken up recently, in the last week of January. They're also coming with some regulation on this. So in short, there's no time to step back around. So it's moving forward, I would call that way. Implementation challenges, competing platforms. There are many platforms. You must have seen hundreds of platforms have come up around the blockchain. Now you can't tell each vendor of yours, guys, use the same platform which I'm using it. So the platform may be different, but if I look at the generation 3, which is blockchain, they're coming up with the idea where one blockchain platform to another blockchain, they can share the information. The obstacles which are coming around is, obviously, the first one is understanding and awareness. People have got the ideas around. Most of the company where I have gone around, people know what is blockchain. But what is for us? Is it easy? What will happen to my legacy systems? Those are the concepts which are still struggling around. Lack of standards, yes. But many organizations have started developing it. ISO is trying to develop it. So another one is regulatory issues. Even the government of India is also coming up with the details on this, the budget, lack of industry support. So still, I think this has to become, and people are aware, but as a whole, broadly, the industry, if I'm talking of manufacturing industry, retail industry, it has to come up that we have to move in this direction. Today, I think we're still struggling with digitization. So that part is done. Maybe the next level will be this one. Now, coming back to the digitization, the two words, one is digitization, one is digitalization. I hope all of you understand the difference in the two things. Digitization could be that I'm doing everything on a paper. At the end of the day, I put 2-3 people, guys, scan everything, put into the storage system. So that is digitization. I'm digitizing my existing hard copy concepts around. But when I talk of digitalization, I want by nature, by design, Each and every information should be digital. I should not be making a hard copy and printing it and then scanning it. So it has to be by design digital. But the digitalization which we are doing today in most of the companies, so each one is doing in his silos. I'm doing in P2P, finance is doing in his own invoicing, but between the two of them, there's a still gap. And that's what I call as an analog gap around. So I know this one is becoming very popular, the whole transformation to digitalization. The very first thing is the foundation part. Strengthen your foundations, update and standardize the policies around, reduce the spot buying, rationalization of suppliers base, which is very important around, contract chain controls, contract reporting around, and then the next one is the deep dive supplier reviews around. Are we doing the supplier reviews around? I have got a supplier for the last 10 years, I'm just sticking to that. Are we reviewing it in terms of pricing, in terms of quality, in terms of new changes which are happening in the market around? And remove the duplicate process. So that's a very basic foundation if you're planning for digitalization. So just getting a technology is not good enough. The processes, whether we like it or not, whether we go for blockchain or whether we go for even standard digitalization, you have to change the process as well. Then comes transition to digital operations. So the first thing is the foundations, those who are planning to do the transformation. First build the foundation, then move from transition to digital operations around, analytics to support buying, embed the policies around, business rules and technology platforms, e-invoicing, and three-way matching. Many companies have done three-way invoicing, I'm dealing with them, but there are still teething troubles around. RPA is also becoming very popular, robotic process automation. There are some processes which are repetitive, which are mundane. If it's repetitive, then that could be done very well by RPA. B2B web platforms, automated matching. Now we are moving into the maturity level. So the first was the foundation, then we have done the transition. Now when we want to move into the maturity level, the last line, if you look around, is the use of blockchain protocols. So that means you cannot just come up to blockchain until you set up all these things around. So the maturity dimension, if I look around from those who are doing the transformation as of now, first come the operational strategies. You need to develop your strategies part. The same thing which I explained you in the previous slide, more of a foundation time. People, the talent, mindset of the organizations, category managements. One should not think the blockchain will take away these. No, these are required. The category management is still required. P2P would be there, but supply SRM, internal stakeholder management, you have internal clients or external clients, technology and data and performance management. Now coming back to some of the use cases in supply chain, now some of them are more complex. So this gives you a very good graphical things which are very complex, which are easy to adopt, which are high difficult to adopt. So that way it indicates you how much efforts are required around. So one should not think, guys, okay, if I got a blockchain software applications around, everything will be done. No, there's a hard work to be done in some cases around. Since somebody, if I look around, will be the blockchain of ERP of the future. Some people are all the time asking this question around that we are using the legacy ERP. We spend millions of dollars to implement ERP. Will this replace? I mean, I won't be surprised if blockchain becomes universally acceptable. The way I look around is ERP will remain. That's a legacy system which is within your own organization, but blockchain will be connected with them. So blockchain will be connecting all your vendors and everyone's around with whom you deal, but still within the organization you have ERP. So both will have to be interconnected. So integration has to be done. Now coming back to the tip of the iceberg, When we look at the applications, obviously the finance part is number one, I would call around. Supply chain is coming number two. Health sector is becoming number three. So there are a wide range of applications which are coming around. The area which India is working around few projects. We have one project in Panchkula, the United Nations has taken up. That is for the real estates around. Because if you look around, 60 to 70% of the disputes we have in small towns, villages are land related, land and property related. And those are moving into the blockchain, will remove these things. Because in the blockchain, I can find the whole historical records. I can track and trace every information. So there's not possibility of tampering with the information around. So those activities are moving very fast. I think many states are working on that. Supply chain also, some have started working on it. So it's moving, I would say, particularly the smart contract. So if I look around, it's not just a game changer, industry changer. It will have a transformational impact on the way our industry evolves. Conclusion, if I talk around, blockchain represents a step forward that procurement organizations should not ignore. It opens a new door. It brings you the further improvement to streamline the paper-based processes to enhancing the cooperation. So today we have all the process of paper-based, quite a lot, and now that could be moved into the cooperation part. I mean, we are working cooperation through digitalizations. And again, I would say just because others are doing it, you have to follow it. No, I think each one has got a different situations around. So one has to really work it out, their own return on investments, their own existing technology level, their mindset of the people, the training of the people before we jump into this one, blockchain. So lastly, I would like to put it up this way. The key takeaways, the blockchain is an ongoing revolution. It's going through the major changes. Blockchain establishes the very good corporations. Blockchain is for any domains. Blockchain is threatening any middleman. So basically, you're cutting down the middle peoples. So if we are dealing with peer-to-peer, I don't need a middle person who are maintaining and storing my information, and that data could have been sold earlier. I think you have seen already in the case of India, we were having Aadhaar cards. People were doubting that my information could leak it out because that is all centralized. So the moment we get into decentralized approach, possibilities are less. So they mean data become much more safer and much more trustworthy. The way I look around, the blockchain will boost economic growth and prosperity in the years to come. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you all. So if you have any questions, so we could spend next 10 to 15 minutes on the Q&A. Thank you, everyone.